Hey, welcome back.
Yeah.
You were gone long enough.
Gone from...
Dude, where were you?
You didn't get any of that?
Any
you
of
didn't
what?
get anything I said?
Fill me in.
Okay. You need to learn to pay attention, dude.
Obviously. Sum it up.
All right. So the attitudes we need to have to approach this conversation, the basis of this conversation. I mean, talking about these things is like, it's like candy. If candy isn't good, you don't really want to eat it. So
all right.
Make it good, make it enjoyable, and then let's take it from there.
Trying to see where you're going.
Philosophy, let's take some things from philosophy. That's the rational way of thinking, the rational way of discerning truth. To have certain attitudes, and that is humble attitude, attitude of learning, and that is an attitude of fairness. Try to remove all prejudices that we have.
Okay.
Second thing we need to do is we need to learn how to define our words, define our terms, to make it clear what we are saying.
Yeah.
You know, make it almost a paragraph, almost a sentence. This way we can move forward and build. And
it's a skill you could build.
and basically, after that, we start building premises. Premises that lead to a conclusion we can both agree to a degree, but the premises are the ones that we need to focus on and agree on most. The conclusion almost happens on its own. And that means we won't try and prove the premises. That's not the point here. We try and just, as long as it doesn't go against anything obvious, like we start saying the first premise is gravity doesn't exist. That's not, you know.
That's everything that happened in your mind for the last
That's
10
everything
minutes?
I told you, yeah.
All right. You told me. Okay. We have very different ideas of what happened here.
So maybe we need to learn how to focus.
Maybe we need to define our terms.
Using that again.
I mean, you talked about philosophy and habits of philosophy, but how does this fit into the concept of God?
No, I mean, you know, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that science is inadequate. Science is perfect. It's perfect for proving and explaining and understanding the conditions that we live in. And philosophy kind of understands things in perspective beyond just the senses. And I think that's why I call it the philosophical habits. You know, the habits a philosopher would have, you know, looking for truth and understanding things on an existential level, but simultaneously on a very rational level. I think it's important to have.
So you mentioned God, and I think everybody that believes in God says God. So would we say God or would we say gods when we approach this topic? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's...
because if everybody believes something different, does it mean that there's different gods?
Yeah, that's another wrinkle. Because even before we can even talk about the things we can talk about, there's the idea of, oh, we're not agreed on even how many gods there are. You know, and a lot of people say that the amounts of gods you believe in is based on where you're born and stuff like that.
I think we all agree on how many gods there are, but it's just mine.
Yeah.
Yours doesn't exist. It's only mine.
Mine doesn't exist. But then, if mine doesn't exist, my idea could be, oh well, why is yours legitimate or not, you know, Odin or Zeus or whatever it may be. So to me, I view it as based on context and accidents of life, basically. So I think the way I see God is like, God has been Zeus, Odin, it has been nature, it has even been kings in the eyes of mankind through time. And I think to understand that spirituality and deity and religion has been so tightly knit with human culture, there's never going to be a time where we will get rid of it completely. Neither will there be a time, a reason to hide it under the carpet. So we should kind of let that go and try and, you know, enjoy the conversation at least. And the way I view God or deity in itself is almost like a light that moving through time and through cultures and through individuals, most importantly, people have had very strong love for him or them, whatever you want to call it. And what they have done is they have adorned this lamp, this light, with a little thing that they like, you know, something that they like, they will kind of, you know, adorn it. Yeah. And then their children will do the same, and their children, and the village will do the same, and the continent will do the same. And so basically you have these people adorning their ideas of God through millennia, through, you know. And what this does basically is the more you shadow a light, the more dim it becomes. The true essence of that light starts to disappear. You remain with preferences and tastes and dogmas and superstition. So I think the thing we need to try and do is we need to try and remove all these veils from that light and try to see an essence, not imagery necessarily, but an essence that we can understand and build upon.
Would it help in that sense to start analyzing what are the common threads between religions and between philosophies when it comes to God?
Yes.
Because I think when you look at religions, when you look at the concept of God from the perspective of different religions, you see there's always some things that are common between them.
Yeah.
And then there's other things that they seem to differ, and maybe that those are these things that you, as you mentioned, people add, or just the circumstances of the time were different.
Exactly.
No?
Exactly. I mean, going into religion doesn't mean throwing away history and human culture and all these things. This is very important in understanding God. I believe that understanding God in perspective of capacity, of human need, and all of these things, we kind of can find that light again, as you're saying. I don't think the belief in polytheism is necessarily something that goes against our belief in one God. I mean, let's not forget, religions do get corrupt throughout time. And as a Baha'i, that's why we believe religion is progressive. But even if you look at the religions where there are multiple gods, there is always still that idea that there's a head deity, one of the most, where everything is collected, the singular, the most powerful. You know, mythology around that will vary based on, you know, stories you tell your children and stuff like that. But still, that essence is the same, and that you can see even there's a red thread. There is a singular power. Even beyond the human place in this religion changes, was either there or present or not present, but there is still that idea. So I think, yes, I think we can find a red thread. We can find it in Christianity with Judaism, and we can find it with Hinduism and Buddhism. We can find it with Islam and the Baha'i faith. And this is the idea that there is a singular truth that we can use.